From the earliest point in the Boruto series, it was always planned for Boruto to have both the Nine Tails as well as the Byakugan, but I guess Kishimoto forgot, and because of that, Boruto ended up with neither the Nine Tails or the Byakugan. But that's okay, cause now at least it'll ensure that Himawari becomes a utilized character. As I was looking through the comments of the previous video and saw where user TomSimpkins1211 was talking about everything that Hiyashi could do, it made my mind race with possibilities. But beyond just this, a lot of questions remain. Where did Naruto get these dojutsu? Why does he have them? These will hopefully be questions answered in this next episode of What If. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Naruto was sitting outside in the Hyuga clan compound. Beside him was Hinata. What used to be awkward slowly grew into a close friendship. Neji wasn't far, but he was doing his own thing as he usually did. Hiyashi was currently getting a physical done as per the orders of Konoha. Definitely not in his prime anymore, he was still very strong. Due to these things, he seemed a bit iffy on whether he actually wanted to have a physical done in the first place, but considering how important it was, he decided to go through with it. Hiyashi, in most people's eyes, wasn't the best option for being a Jinchuriki, and honestly, the first few days after taking on the tailed beast led him to bouts of sudden nausea followed by vomiting or other forms of bowel distress. He was pretty much better now, but still, Hiruzen was being overly careful. He didn't want to risk Hiyashi or the Nine Tails, so this was a mandatory appointment. As Hiyashi cooperated, the doctor finished his examination. "It looks like your body's accepted the Nine Tails' power." "I thought so. But why was I getting sick so often those first few weeks?" Hiyashi asked. "That would be because your body was still adjusting to the increase of chakra, as well as trying to decide if it wanted to reject the foreign entity. But it seems as though you're perfectly healthy now." The doctor put his light back into his pocket. He scratched his white chin-strap beard and pushed his fingers through his hair, making sure everything was still in proper position. "The point of this today wasn't just to see if your body's accepted the Nine Tails, but also to see if you're fit enough to begin training to utilize it. Both of those are a resounding yes," the doctor said. Hiyashi stood. "Then I suppose it's been a pleasure, Dr. Sanzu," he said as he offered a hand. The white-haired man smiled as he peered through his orange-tinted glasses. "Please, Hiyashi, we've known each other long enough. Just call me Amato." Hiyashi smiled in return. "Of course." As they stepped out, Hiyashi continued to flatter the doctor, telling him how honored he was to be checked up on by the Hokage's personal physician. "Well, it is sort of my job. Not only am I assigned to the Hokage, but also to the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. So by that mandate, I am now officially your personal doctor for the rest of your life." "It's been a long time coming," Hiyashi said. "We've known each other for years. I'm glad to finally have a friend of mine as my doctor." As they walked outside, Amato couldn't help but look at Naruto as he sat there, oblivious as ever. Hiyashi was attempting to carry on a conversation with him, but he didn't seem to be paying attention. "What are you looking at?" Hiyashi asked. Amato tried to play it off, but Hiyashi got the idea. "Yeah, that's Naruto, son of the 4th Hokage and his wife. But I don't need to tell you that, do I? You were there when he was born. I delivered him personally. Then that man attacked." Hiyashi nodded as he listened to Amato speak. He then spoke himself. "It's a shame that you couldn't identify the man. You were the only survivor. And I've got the scar to prove it," Amato said. Amato seemed like he were trying to determine what he was going to say. Then he just came out and asked it. "Can I please run a quick examination on Naruto?" he asked. "I'd like to see how he's doing." "You wish to run an examination on Naruto?" Hiyashi asked. Amato smiled. "For old time's sake. It'll take me back to my younger years, working under Lord Fourth." Hiyashi chuckled. "Feel free then." Hiyashi called Naruto over. Naruto had been in the middle of a conversation with Hinata when he was suddenly called over by Hiyashi. He walked over. "What's up?" "Naruto, this is Dr. Amato Sanzu. He is my new personal physician. He asked if he could run an examination on you as well." Naruto seemed skeptical. "I don't know. I promise I won't jab you with a needle," Amato said. "A completely painless examination," he promised, trying to reassure Naruto. Naruto let off a defeated smile. "Of course, Dr. Amato." Hiyashi and Naruto walked back inside with the doctor. "Is there any reason that you want to do this?" Naruto said as he sat down. Naruto was a bit of a hypochondriac. He could just read about a new disease in a book and start developing all the symptoms. So when a doctor mysteriously wanted to give him a checkup, the first thing that would come to his mind is serious terminal illness I just didn't notice yet. But Hiyashi assured him that everything was okay. "Dr. Amato just wants to check up on you. He was the personal doctor of both of your parents." Naruto's eyes lit up. Really? Amato smiled. Yeah. What can you tell me about them? Naruto asked. Amato thought back. Your parents were some of the happiest people I'd ever met. Your mother and father, despite their ages and positions within the village, both seemed quite immature. Well, not entirely immature. They carried a certain wisdom in them that told me that they knew what they were doing, but they still weren't above playing pranks on each other and on their friends. I was subject to many. Sounds like Naruto, Hiyashi said with a chuckle. Did you ever prank them back? Naruto asked with a smile wide with amazement and intrigue. Amato shook his head. No, pranks weren't in my personality. I was more of a serious type of man, something Minato and Kushina continuously told me I should loosen up on. I never did though. Are there any stories you can tell me about them? Naruto asked. Amato nodded. I can think of one. Back before you were born, when you were still growing in your mother's womb, she would often visit me to make sure you were okay. She always said something felt off. For a happy-go-lucky woman, your mother was quite the hypochondriac. It seemed like she was visiting me every week, which I didn't really mind. Being the closest thing to Surgeon General in the village, I don't often get the chance to help others as I'm generally too busy leading the other doctors and making sure all of our medical systems are unified. I would check her blood all the time just to make sure you and she were okay. She really loved you, even back before she knew you. Such a shame she didn't get to spend much time with you. The Nine-Tails escaped during pregnancy due to some malefactor who sought the power of the tailed beast. In the end, your father beat that man back, but he didn't stop the beast from escaping. Your mother died trying to protect you from it, as did your father, who sealed it away with himself at death. Getting it back was quite the feat for Hiruzen to pull off. Generally, what the Shinigami takes, it keeps, but Hiruzen, the sly devil, managed to take back the Nine-Tails. It makes me feel better to know that Minato isn't still inside that thing. I do hope he made it into heaven. Amato then saw the sad look upon Naruto's face and realized what he'd done. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you upset. Frankly, your parents would be proud to see the person you've grown into, Naruto. I know I am. Amato then proceeded to check Naruto's vision. He looked inside of it. It's true. You have the structure of every dojutsu in your eye. He looked through and saw the signs of all of the Sharingan's line of dojutsu, looking very carefully at one in particular. I've never seen so many dojutsu in one eye. It makes me wonder how they could all possibly fit in there. Amato turned his light off and returned it to his pocket. You look rather healthy to me. Tip-top shape. Whatever you're doing that's healthy, keep it up. It seems to be helping you quite a bit. Amato stood and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and gave it a pat. He then walked over to Hiyashi and shook his hand. I'll be off now. I need to report back to the Hokage about everything in the physical. As far as I'm concerned, you should be free to begin training. Is there anything that can be provided to me to teach me the best way to master this power? Hiyashi asked. Amato thought about it. I'll give you the same advice that I give all of our Jinchuriki. The tailed beast in you is basically an animal. You've got to tame it, and taming it tends to be from defeating it in combat. How does one defeat the Nine-Tails in combat? Amato shrugged. That's why there are so few Nine-Tails Jinchuriki who can fully make use of its power. However, you are a Hyuga, so I'm sure you know the best way to deal with a monster that relies totally on chakra control. Hiyashi thought about it. Amato was right. All it would take was a little training. What I recommend you to do is to learn how to utilize various forms of Fuinjutsu. Sealing is a powerful technique against the Nine-Tails. It'll help you end a battle quickly if it's not going in your favor, and it'll further help you master the power if you manage to win. Hiyashi took this to heart. Thank you very much, Dr. Amato. No problem, Amato said. He then looked back at Naruto. I'll be looking forward to our next examination, Naruto. He then proceeded to leave the building. Naruto smiled. He seemed pretty excited about my dojutsu abilities. A lot of people tend to be, Hiyashi said. You've got eyes like nobody else. People will naturally wish to understand it. Naruto listened to what Hiyashi said. Despite that, he couldn't help but get an uneasy feeling now that the examination was over. Amato walked in darkness. In the distance was an orange flickering light. When he reached the end of the long corridor, he found a room that possessed a single man sitting in a chair. He wore an orange mask with a tiger stripe pattern on it. Tell me, does that boy have it? Amato nodded. I ran an examination on him. During the course of the examination, I looked into his eyes and saw the structure of a dojutsu above the Rinnegan. The structure was red like the Sharingan, possessed deactivated Tomoe at the moment, but had a similar shape to the Rinnegan. Good. That means it worked then. Amato began to speak. I wasn't sure it would. When he was first born, he didn't display any of the structures for dojutsu. He must have developed them later in life. The DNA samples you provided me from that celestial being you spoke of were instrumental in making this happen. But my question is, why do you need me to do this? The masked man sat forward. The Rinne Sharingan is the most powerful dojutsu to ever exist. For some time, it was believed that the only way to awaken it was to absorb the power of the Ten Tails, as the Ten Tails was the only creature that possessed it. It was the only thing capable of casting the infinite Tsukiyomi. But now the Rinne Sharingan exists outside of the Nine Tails. All that's required of me is to possess that eye, and I can make both of our dreams come true. I can bring the world peace, and you can finally see Akebi again. But for this to work, you must bring me the boy. Do you understand, Amato? The man nodded. I understand. Hiyashi was studying various forms of Fuinjutsu. He had been doing this for quite some time. The Hyugas weren't strangers to sealing jutsu. They had their own Fuinjutsu not too dissimilar from a curse mark. It was known as the curse mark of the caged bird, and any Hyuga family member who possessed a Byakugan without being a member of the main family was subject to it. It was from his experience in this that he began diving into as many curse marks and sealing formulas as he possibly could, studying everything he could get his hands on down to even the ancient Uzumaki scrolls, something that one couldn't normally get a hold of without the Hokage's approval. He had been studying for months, practicing the techniques in various ways, and was now pretty sure he had a grasp on it. As he continued to practice these techniques, he was fairly certain that he could call upon them when he needed them most. All the while he did this, he knew that he was going to have a plan for actually defeating the Nine Tails. Yeah, he could unseal it and reseal it, but the issue wasn't the sealing, but the capturing of power from the beast. Considering its penchant for never trusting its Jinchuriki, nor ever willingly sharing its power with them, the only option he had was subduing and theft of power. To that end, he began to study the biology of tailed beasts. He assumed that they possessed tenketsu. His greatest fear was that because the tailed beast was made of chakra itself, that it possessed no real tenketsu. But that being said, given the way tailed beasts generated into physical form after escaping Jinchuriki or being killed, they possessed a physical body structure, which meant they did indeed possess tenketsu. This was good, because that would be what he would use. The Nine Tails was massive, and Hiyashi felt he'd be an idiot to face it down directly. What he needed to do was take something very strong down with minimal force. That's what the Gentle Fist was best at, so he decided that he would go with that. When Hiyashi was sure he was ready, he set a date and took a set of shinobi with him and left the village unannounced. Naruto was asked to be there just in case, along with Amato should anything happen. After going some distance away from the village so that nobody would be hurt if Hiyashi failed to control and reseal the beast, Hiyashi sat down in the field and crossed his legs. Are you sure you want to do this? Naruto asked. Hiyashi nodded. I am certain. I need to learn how to utilize the Nine Tails if I'm going to be any use to this village. Naruto seemed a bit nervous about the situation. Hiyashi smiled. It's okay, Naruto. I'm going to make sure you don't have to face it again. You're just here as a failsafe. Naruto shook his head. I'm not afraid that I'll have to face the Nine Tails again. I'm afraid you'll die. I don't want to lose you, Lord Hiyashi. I don't want to lose the only person I could ever see as a father. Hiyashi's heart began to melt as he felt tears form in his eyes. He pulled Naruto into a hug. It's okay, Naruto. I won't die. I'm going to be just fine. After a moment, Hiyashi let Naruto go. He re-entered a meditative position and closed his eyes. He steadied his breathing and attempted to enter his subconscious. Once he had, he stood before the gate of the Nine Tails. Interesting. A non-Uzumaki desires to be my Jinchuriki. This has only ever happened one other time. Kurama's mouth turned up into an evil and nefarious grin. It didn't end well. Hiyashi stood there, undaunted. The Uzumaki possess powerful chakra reserves and are naturals with sealing jutsu, but do not underestimate the power of the Hyuga. Then by all means, try to conquer me. I'll show you why only the strong can even hold me, let alone utilize me. Hiyashi then smiled. I'm going to redefine the word strong for you. Hiyashi rose into the air and peeled the tag from the cage. His eyes met Kurama's and Kurama's met his. As they stood there staring at each other, they were sizing each other up. Despite Kurama's confidence, deep down he was trying not to underestimate him. All the while, Hiyashi, perceiving the emotional manipulation the Nine Tails could exude and read, kept himself in check, offering nothing but overconfidence. Hiyashi had to give himself to overconfidence, even to the point of irrationality. He had to be intoxicated by his own power and self-image, because if he wasn't, he would give away just how truly terrified he was to be doing this. Hiyashi offered a smile, and Kurama, seeing it, offered one back. You're either secretly very strong or very stupid. I suppose we'll find out which as soon as you open that seal. Hiyashi put his hand to the seal. Anything further you'd like to say before we begin? If you wish to surrender your chakra willingly, now would be a good time. I might even craft a bigger cage for you, treats included. Kurama began to laugh. Already trying to bribe your way out? No, I'm just giving you a fair chance not to get your ass kicked, Hiyashi said as he undid the seal. He immediately moved out of the way to allow the Ninetales room to escape. Hiyashi wasn't stupid. He knew he could never keep up with the Ninetales' own raw physical strength. And it was a good thing he did because the Ninetales exited aggressively. Hiyashi didn't know if Kurama possibly had knowledge of the techniques that he possessed, but what he did know is that it meant business, and he'd be an idiot to underestimate the Ninetales. As the beast came out, it swung its claws at Hiyashi, forcing the clan head to dodge left and right in an attempt not to get torn apart. Hiyashi was a little bit surprised by the beast's speed. For something with so much mass, he expected it to only be able to function slowly, but it seemed that the beast was light compared to other things that would be its size. That likely contributed to the speed of the beast. As he jumped about, Hiyashi activated his Byakugan and was pleased to note that the Ninetales did possess all the Tenketsu that he thought it would. This meant that he could subdue it if he could get close enough. Despite that, he was still currently on the defensive and didn't have enough time to switch over. The Ninetales, tired of this back and forth game of cat and mouse, formed a tailed beast ball in its mouth and launched it at the ground, causing a massive explosion that launched Hiyashi Hyuga back. He managed to lessen the damage done by utilizing his 8 trigrams palm rotation. Despite that barrier of chakra being created, the chakra of the beast itself seemed to overpower it. As he landed far away, he felt the burns on his body forming. Ow. That hurt, he said as he managed to get to his feet again. The Ninetales had been blown back a bit and was currently now getting up. It was willing to hurt itself just to hurt me. That's crazy, Hiyashi thought. I guess that proves it's taking me seriously. Hiyashi felt as if he used a good bit of chakra defending from that shot, and was currently doing the math to see if he had enough to still seal the Ninetales after a bit more battling. He was sure that he could still use the seal even after more of a fight, so he proceeded to run toward the distant beast. As his feet splashed through the thin layer of standing water just above the floor, the Ninetales prepared another tailed beast ball. It fired it at him, which he managed to dodge with the help of a shadow clone. Hiyashi mused how proud Naruto would be to see Hiyashi utilizing his special move. As he came closer, Hiyashi began calculating the best place to strike. The beast was covered in Tenketsu, but there was one that he knew he would only need to tap to put the beast out for a while. He needed to strike the Tenketsu that controlled everything. Chakra burned like a massive blue flame in the center of every being's body. It was from this well that chakra flowed out. If he could tap the Tenketsu at the center of this flame, he could stop it from flowing to the rest of the body in any way he desired. Best thing was that this Tenketsu was relatively unguarded by the current stance the Ninetales was taking. All Hiyashi had to do was make it past these attacks. If he could slide through the beast's defenses, the battle would basically be over. Hiyashi drew closer and continued to dodge the tailed beast balls with the help of his shadow clones. He would form a multitude of them to further confuse the beast and help defend him. Getting closer, the Ninetales lost track of the real Hiyashi and just started swiping. Little did he know that Hiyashi was coming up from the side with a second shadow clone following him. Once he got under the Ninetales, his clone assumed a position for a boost. Hiyashi ran at the clone and jumped into its cupped hand. As the clone pushed him up, Hiyashi pushed off the clone's hand. He fired up at the Ninetales' stomach and planted his fist right in the softest point where that Tenketsu was located. As soon as the strike landed, the Ninetales felt all of the wind leave its lungs as its solar plexus began to feel unusually cold. That cold, numb feeling radiated out to the farthest points of the Ninetales' body as it felt its vision dim and its balance going. It began to topple. Hiyashi ran out of the way as the beast fell on its side. It was out. Hiyashi then used his chakra to start pulling the chakra from the Ninetales, a feat that wasn't as difficult as it seemed due to the Ninetales no longer being conscious. Once he had pulled the chakra free, his body was set aflame by the orange glow of the Ninetales' chakra. He then began to weave hand signs, calling in the new sealing method. As torii gates fell from the sky, the Ninetales was locked up once again, resealed. Once that was done, Hiyashi left his subconscious. He was still sitting out in the field. Everyone around him was watching carefully. Lord Hiyashi, Yamato asked, "Are you all right?" Hiyashi smiled and offered a slight nod of the head. "I have successfully controlled the Ninetales and resealed it. Its power is mine now." Naruto ran over and hugged him. "See, I told you it'd be all right," Hiyashi said. "I think we should do a quick once-over before we get back to the village," Yamato said. "We want to make sure that everything is in the best possible shape before we return." Hiyashi agreed and subjected himself to the physical. Once everything was confirmed to be okay, they headed back to the Hyuga clan compound. That night, after celebration, Naruto headed back to his apartment to rest. Getting there, he unlocked the door and stepped in. Once inside, he stretched and yawned. It was getting late and he was getting sleepy, so he began the process of readying for bed. But before he got into bed, he heard a knock at the door. "Who could it be at this hour?" Naruto asked. He peeped out the peephole and saw Amato standing there. "Huh, what's Amato doing here?" He opened the door. "Dr. Amato, what are you here for?" "It's urgent. Can I come inside?" "Of course," Naruto said as he opened the door and closed it behind him. "What is it that you need to talk to me about?" Suddenly, Amato pushed a cloth to Naruto's face. Naruto tripped, fell backwards, and hit the wall. He tried to get up, but it was chloroform. He was breathing in the fumes and losing consciousness. "No, please, When Naruto was down, Amato put the cloth away. He seemed very upset about this. Lifting him up over his shoulder, Amato opened the door again and began to make his way out of the village. Naruto was unconscious for the most part. He only woke up when he was laid down in a cage. He awakened only for a moment to see Amato and a man wearing a strange tiger stripe mask. Naruto recognized the man as soon as he saw him. "You're the man who..." Naruto passed out again. The next day, Hiyashi was outside tending to his garden when suddenly Yamato showed up. "Lord Hiyashi, Lord Third would like to speak with you. It's urgent." Hiyashi would be taken to the Hokage's office where Hiruzen would be waiting for him. "What is it, Lord Hiruzen?" Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen looked over. "It's Naruto. I wanted to know if you had any idea about his location." Hiyashi shook his head. "I heard he went home last night. Did he not get there safely?" Hiruzen shook his head. "He did. But when I went this morning to present him his monthly allowance, the door was unlocked. Inside, I saw signs of a struggle. I think someone's taken Naruto." Hiyashi thought about this and nodded. "I don't know where he is." "We're mounting a search." "Is there any way I can help?" Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen nodded. "Feel free to do whatever you want to help." As Hiyashi began to head home, he thought about everything he had been told. Someone kidnapped Naruto in the night. Why? He wasn't the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Since Hiyashi had captured the Nine-Tails, word had traveled far and wide that Naruto was never the Jinchuriki, and that instead it was Hiyashi. This shocked a lot of people. Either someone didn't get the memo, or there was something else that... Hiyashi then realized. His Dojutsu! They want his Dojutsu! That's when he remembered a request Naruto had made. "I have to hurry." Hiyashi then went back to the Hyuga clan compound to gather his forces to help track Naruto. Naruto's eyes opened again. Where am I? He found himself tied to a chair in the middle of a room. Torches were lit, and before him was a masked man, along with Amato. "Amato, what's going on here? You know who this man is, don't you? He's the masked man who killed my parents. What are you doing throwing in with him?" Amato looked away as the masked man began to speak. "He's always been on my side, Naruto. Since before you were even born." Naruto was confused. I don't understand." The masked man continued. "Have you ever wondered about your Dojutsu?" Naruto was confused. "What are you talking about? Amato, what's he talking about?" "Your Dojutsu," the man mask continued, "was devised by me. You have no natural Uchiha or Hyuga blood in you. It was all Amato and his genetic experimentation. While you were still developing inside of your mother, he began to add the DNA of a celestial being we discovered to your system." Naruto looked over. "Amato, all those times that my mother came to you, feeling that something wasn't right, and you kept giving her shots. That was..." "I'm sorry," Amato said. "I didn't wish to betray the Leaf, the Hokage, your mother, or you. It's just..." "Why?" Naruto demanded. Amato looked back. "My daughter." Naruto was confused. "Your daughter?" Amato nodded. "My daughter was sick, very sick. I began searching for a way to cure her through gene therapy, but when no other options presented themselves, I considered cloning her body. Something went wrong though, and the clone wasn't viable. I ran out of options and she ran out of time. She died. I was destroyed. I was then approached by this man, who said that he could bring her back to me if I were to give him a Rinne Sharingan. To do that though, I needed to develop it in someone with a strong enough chakra well to hold it. Someone compatible with the DNA. That was you. I'm very sorry, Naruto. Please, forgive me. I promise we won't kill you. We just need to take your eyes. That's all. You won't even miss them, because when the infinite Tsukiyomi is cast, you'll be put into a dream like everyone else. A dream where everything is perfect." "The infinite Tsukiyomi?" Naruto questioned. "That's a dangerous genjutsu. That nearly ended the world once. Do you really want that? You want to be responsible for ending the world?" "No," Amato shouted at him. "I don't. But I can't live in a world where my daughter doesn't exist." "And you won't have to, my friend," the masked man said. "Now that I have the Rinne Sharingan, I can return to life everyone we lost." Naruto let out a sigh. "I'm sorry, but you're both about to be disappointed," Naruto said. The masked man and Amato looked at him curiously. Naruto looked up. "I already knew this would happen." Amato was shocked. "You knew?" Naruto nodded. "I saw this coming a while ago, back when you examined my eyes. I didn't tell anyone because I couldn't believe it myself, that Amato would do this to us. And now as I listen to him, I can't entirely blame you. You're a desperate man who's lost everything. But I regret to inform you that while I didn't believe it would happen, I took precautions for this." Naruto raised his head and whipped his hair back, displaying underneath a curse mark. The curse mark of the caged bird. Amado was in shock. "No, how could you do this to us?" Naruto sighed. "Hiyashi once told me that my dojutsu was special, and that people would come for it, and that the best I could do was deter people from taking it by adding this seal. At that time, I refused, but after having that vision with the Miragon, I couldn't help but choose it." Amado fell to his knees. It's over," he said. The masked man looked over. "It's not over yet, Amado. Perhaps we can't take his dojutsu from him now, but we can force him to use it for us." Amado looked up. "Huh?" The masked man looked at Naruto and removed his mask to display a Mangekyo Sharingan and a Rinnegan of his own. With but a glance, he cast Naruto under Genjutsu. "Now all we must do is wait for nightfall. Then the infinite Tsukiyomi will be cast." As they prepared for the moon to rise, the Zetsu guards that were standing about came to inform their masters about the incoming army of Konoha Nin. "What's going on?" Obito asked. "We've been discovered," the white Zetsu said. As Hiyashi drew closer, he was glad that Naruto had finally consented to the caged bird seal. Not only was his specifically designed to keep his dojutsu safe, but it was also designed to allow Hiyashi to track them. When Hiyashi remembered this, he returned to Hiruzen and informed him. Now an army had been amassed, and they were marching on the location of Naruto's curse mark. When they got there, they saw an army of Zetsu waiting for them. Hiyashi, wearing full battle armor, was in charge of the forward lines due to his superior firepower as well as his wisdom that only came with age. Pointing toward the army, he shouted, "Forward!" and they marched. Frankly, the fact that they could get an army like this was only due in small part to Sasuke, who explained to Hiruzen about what Naruto possessed, as well as what the stone tablet Naruto had decoded had said. Realizing how important this was, they scrambled to battle. And now, as they ran toward the enemy, the only thing on Hiyashi's mind was the only thing that had ever been on his mind since the whole situation had started. Rescue Naruto. Activating his Nine-Tails chakra mode, Hiyashi engaged with the Zetsu. He blitzed through them with his strength. With the chakra sense of the Nine-Tails that could detect emotions as well, mixed with his Byakugan, Hiyashi had to be one of the most informed warriors on the battlefield. He had knowledge of how many warriors there were on both sides, as well as enough information to start formulating strategies on the fly. As the Zetsu tried to surround and cut him off, he knew from what direction every attack was coming. Mixing the ability to fire off chakra from every Tenketsu with the power of the Nine-Tails, Hiyashi formed spikes on his body that extended out in every direction, stabbing through each Zetsu's body. Hiyashi looked like a porcupine as he moved through the battlefield. As he moved in, he struck a Zetsu's Tenketsu with his gentle fist techniques. Surrounded once again, Hiyashi spoke. "You guys never learn." He sunk into a lower position. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hiyashi began to perform the technique, but due to the fact that he could create a multitude of arms out of the Nine-Tails chakra, he was not only able to lengthen the range of this attack, but was able to utilize it on more than a single opponent. Despite how much chakra Hiyashi was expending, he felt like this was but the surface of the surface. He felt like he could do so much more. He was almost sure that he alone could take out the whole army. But despite that, he knew why he was here and what he needed to do. Realizing the precipice of stone where Obito and Amado were standing, Hiyashi spoke. "Amado, I trusted you. We all trusted you. How could you do this to us?" Amado looked away in shame. Obito faced Hiyashi. "Interesting. I never realized just how powerful a Hyuga with the Nine-Tails could really be. But you're not going to be any match for the power of the Rinnegan." Obito drew closer and attempted to use the Diva Path to push Hiyashi back. As he did, Hiyashi noticed Amado's face. "Why would you do this, Amado?" Hiyashi asked. "For my daughter. I need to see her again." "But is this what your daughter would want? Will you ever be able to look her in the eye again?" Obito struck Hiyashi with the gunbai. Hiyashi jumped off the wall and attempted to strike back, but Obito activated his Kamui to become intangible. He then used the Ashura Path to grab Hiyashi with an extended hand, like a whip, and fling him back against the wall. Amado thought deeply about what Akebi would want. Akebi, what am I supposed to do?" As Hiyashi laid against the wall, he saw Obito drawing closer. How was he supposed to fight this? Obito hit very hard thanks to the Rinnegan, and due to his intangibility, Hiyashi couldn't even touch him. Obito stopped just in front of him. "You know, not long ago, I had planned to take the tailed beasts. The reason I attacked the village all those years ago was just in case the plan with Naruto didn't work out. If I couldn't have the Rinne Sharingan right out the gate, I would have it with just a little grinding. Unfortunate for you, it did work." He kicked Hiyashi in the face. Hiyashi lost his transformation. Obito scoffed. "Look at you. They used to say that the tailed beasts were the measuring stick by which we measured strength. The tailed beast's strength was supposed to be absolute. But here we stand. Or should I say, here I stand. And here you fall." Obito raised his gunbai to finish off Hiyashi. It was then that there was a cry from behind. No! Suddenly, a chakra rod passed through Obito's throat. Obito fell to his knees, gurgling. He turned around to see Naruto sitting up, his Kokugan activated. He then remembered Hiyashi, but before he could look back, Hiyashi grabbed the chakra rod and jerked it, snapping Obito's neck. Obito fell to the ground, dead. Hiyashi stood and began to walk toward Naruto, who ran as fast as he could. He jumped into Hiyashi's arms. "I'm so glad you're safe," Hiyashi said. He then looked over at Amato. "Why did you help us?" he asked. "You could have had everything you wanted." Amato looked at Hiyashi in shame. "I didn't think Akebi would be very proud of me if I let my grief ruin the world she loved just so I could imagine her with me again." Amato sat down. I couldn't handle it anymore. To be a doctor, a specialist in the field of medicine where your own child is sick, having become a doctor just to heal her. Then for her to die, and there's nothing you could do." Amato sighed as tears began to roll down his cheeks. Hiyashi knelt down beside him. "I understand, Amato. I have 2 daughters of my own, and I would do anything I could for them. But there are some things we cannot do. There is a domain. There is a domain that no mortal can cross. Life and death may be manipulated by humans wrongly, but it truly is in the realm of God. And sometimes the best thing we can do is commit our child to his arms. The pain we feel is immense, but it won't last forever. In the meantime, Amato, you shouldn't focus on losing your daughter. You should focus on saving the children of others. It's why you're still a doctor, isn't it?" Amato nodded. Hiyashi smiled. "And you proved that today. Despite how hard it was, you chose others over yourself. And that's the mentality that sets apart the good doctors from the great ones." And with that, the battle came to an end. The Zetsu were defeated and Amato was taken into custody. Despite his intentions, he still had broken the law and was sentenced to serve out a lengthy prison sentence. However, under the recommendation of Hiyashi, Amato was allowed to continue serving as a doctor to the other prisoners. And as for Naruto, well, Naruto had received a note. It said, "Please come to the Hyuga clan compound as soon as possible." Fearing the worst, Naruto got his gear on and began to make his way out to the compound. As he reached the gates, he ran in and slowed to a stop when he saw all of the Hyuga standing outside. They all smiled at him and stood silently, as if guarding a path forward. Naruto began to walk forward. At the end of that path was Hiyashi, Hinata, Hanabi, and Neji. They were dressed ceremoniously and smiling. Naruto drew closer to Hiyashi. When he was close enough, Naruto whispered, "What's happening?" Hiyashi put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. "We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" Naruto asked. Hiyashi's smile widened a little. "You." Naruto was confused. "Me?" Hiyashi spoke. "Naruto, in these months that I've known you, you've changed my life for the better in a way that only my daughters and Neji have. I almost lost you. Amato taught me how important it is to hold on to family while you still have them, because you never know what could happen, or when they might be gone. That's why I got approval from Hiruzen." Hiyashi knelt down to Naruto's level. "Naruto, I want to adopt you." Naruto's eyes widened. "Adopt?" Hiyashi nodded. "If you'll have me." Hiyashi looked away. "I know it's sudden, but I feel like I need to keep you close. You're a son to me, and I don't want to see you alone." Naruto fell into his embrace. Trembling and crying, he nodded his head vigorously. Yes, please, I want to be a part of your family." Hiyashi smiled. Now, before you think Hiyashi's cold-hearted, don't. Sasuke also had nowhere to go, and Hiyashi had also grown close to him during the time it took to train Naruto. Sasuke was free to live in the Hyuga clan compound as well. He was apprehensive at first, because he once had a family and a clan, and lost it. But Hiyashi convinced him to let go of hatred and give love one more chance. And now, they were all together. They celebrated, all sat at a table ready to enjoy a full banquet. Hiyashi stood and held up his cup. "To family!" And that's the end of this story. I hope the ending was everything you all envisioned it to be. I'd been thinking for a while how to properly explain Naruto having every dojutsu, and I felt that the only way for him to have it was to be in some way connected with Shibai. Amato's character in the Boruto series has always been mysterious to me. While I theorize a lot of things about his identity and true purpose, I can also admit that it's very possible that he's simply just a grieving father who misses their child. If you're watching this in the future and it turns out to be something different, sorry, but this was made in December 2024, before whatever reveal you're talking about. I just wanted to represent that perspective here a little bit. Not just the insane powers that the characters have developed, but the bonds they forged along the way. And in the end, isn't that what Naruto's all about? Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment below and tell us what you thought, things you might have liked different, or video ideas for the future. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when more videos like this one drop, and while you wait for those, try out one or both of these videos on your screen now. Until next time, peace out.